Hi everybody, Vivek here from Meaningful Ideas. Hi everybody, Vivek here from Meaningful Ideas live on Instagram and Facebook at the same time. Instagram, Facebook, hello. I wanted to talk about the sublime beauty of a non-coercive relationship. I feel like I'm talking to two friends, and so I'm looking back and forth between the two cameras. My kid and I, she's 26. My kid is 26, and she's growing up. She's an adult with her own job and working full time, living on her own. And I was texting her goodnight tonight. And we text, she's 26, right? I'm 54. And we text goodnight almost every night. We text goodnight. And it's always so sweet. It's always so sweet and so tender. There's this feeling of deep gratitude that we have in each other's lives, for being in each other's lives. And it's hard to describe because it's come about in a way that's so unusual for this world. It really is. And I don't say that lightly, because my partner and I worked tirelessly from the day she was born to try and do things differently. We had no idea what we were doing. We had no idea, but we knew we wanted to do things differently. And in my mind, I always had this thought that what would it be like if, it was kind of an experiment, what would it be like if my kid grew up with me having never judged them, punished them, hurt them intentionally, controlled them, and just all the way to the extreme, because I tend to be an extreme kind of guy anyways. So what if I could do this all the way to the extreme? I used to call it upside down wisdom. Take the traditional parenting paradigm and turn it completely upside down. And so, that means for years and years and years and years, our relationship has been one where no matter what she's done, she's only ever received acceptance from me. Now, of course, I say that in a grandiose way, but it's not always like that, because I am full of my own triggers. When my kid came along, I didn't even know the word trigger. I didn't even know I had repressed emotions. Nobody told me I had repressed emotions. Why didn't they teach me that in school? And I said, Vivek, you were bullied in grade 7 and 8 and relentlessly, and your parents had to move out of town because they thought you wouldn't survive if they didn't move out of town. Oh, you went through that? Maybe some of that's stored in your nervous system. Oh, thanks, teach. That's so helpful to know. Nobody told me that. So then my kid comes along and my brain is on fire, and I'm so angry and everything is frustrating and everything is going wrong. And it was awful. But I had an ideology in mind. I had an idea in mind that I wanted to always be the safest place for this kid, right? And so I went to the extreme. And you watch my videos, you can see what I mean. All the stories that I tell, the different things that happened. But the consistent experience, even when it wasn't perfect, the consistent experience was stretching towards treating her with so much respect that she never felt I was an authority figure, holding any kind of power over her, thinking that I knew more than her, that I had more rights than her or power than her, that my age gave me something. I didn't do that. And I know it's so different. It's so different that even now, every one of my posts gets all these people telling me that I'm destroying the world. And, I've collected, in 1 month, I've collected 150 harsh negative comments. And I've been screenshotting them. But it's interesting because that the mindset to coerce our kids is deep, right? It's like I almost don't see them as individuals attacking what I say anymore. I almost see it like the mindset attacking what I say, because it's the same words over and over and over again. Your kids are going to end up in prison. I'll bet this guy doesn't have any kids. I bet his kids are terrible people. If you follow this guy, it's going to destroy society. On and on and on and on and on. And maybe that's true. Maybe a little society destroying is necessary. But anyways, so I'm texting. So back to the beginning of the story. I'm texting my kid tonight. My 26-year-old and I are texting goodnight. And the sweetness and the beauty in that texting is that I can feel that she doesn't protect herself from me. She doesn't like the heart connection we have isn't broken by her having to protect herself because she doesn't know when the coercive dad is going to come out, because that's just normal, right? Sometimes you're great and sometimes you punish, and it happens. And I'm not talking about, again, I want to be clear, I'm not talking about when we're overwhelmed and we just lash out, because we do. I'm talking about the people who buy into the coercive philosophy. But if you're like trying every day, but you make 100 mistakes, that's fine. I made so many mistakes when my kid was young, but my striving was always towards this philosophy, right? So if you're striving, that's what counts. But that's a minority. It's still a minority of people. A real minority of people are doing this, even though it seems to be all over the place on the internet. It's a minority of people who are still treating their kids with this kind of respect. The majority, vast majority of parents, especially in North America, where I'm mostly familiar, are punishing their kids, controlling their kids, giving them consequences, giving them rules, giving them limits, giving them boundaries, imposing. And it doesn't take long. In almost every parenting philosophy that you read, if you go on to almost any person's page, and that's teaching parenting, and you'll come upon consequences and boundaries and limits at some point. I'm the adult, I know more, so we have to put it in place, and it's the responsible thing to do, and on and on and on. Parenting can be loving and enjoyable with this. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Cameron. And that's the thing, right? You remove the us versus them completely, because otherwise parents are an obstacle to navigate around, or we have to conform our mask to their expectations. Oh my goodness, I never wanted my kid to have to create a mask for me. Oh my goodness, what a horror. It seems like a horror to me to make my kid create a mask over their true self. Why would I want that from my kid? Do you hear what I'm saying? My kid, the person that's in my life from day one, that I have a chance to create this beautiful relationship with from day one, establishing trust and that I'm safe from day one. Oh my God, I don't even know what that would feel like. Me, I'm 54. And, I'm full of insecurities and fears and lots of lack of self-worth. I don't know what it would feel like to have a person who believed in me from the beginning. I mean, my mom did, in a way, she did. She was fighting a lot of obstacles. And she's totally going to see this video later, so I think she's asleep right now, or at least doesn't know I'm online right now. But my mom tried her best to do things differently. And, she did enough differently that when she would do those things, it would stick in my head. And I was like, that's what I want to do. That's where I want to operate from. And my mom, she's no ordinary person. This is a woman who has, for 10 years, has done weekly self-empowerment workshops in prisons, which is amazing. And she goes in there with folks that have done really serious crimes. And she helps them turn their lives around. And she has an alarming success rate. So alarming that she had a waiting list, the longest waiting list in the institution to get into her program. The longest waiting list in a prison. That's how popular her program was. But it's the same mindset. The reason I'm saying that is it's the same mindset that she took into the prison. Empowering, showing them not that they're wrong and they have to change, but that there's beauty inside them and that they are perfect love in their essence, is what she basically teaches them undercover. She teaches them that they are perfect love in their essence. And if they're true to themselves, only love will ever come out. Only love will come out. And this is what she teaches them in the prison. And she had the longest waiting list of any program in the prison based on love. The longest program, the longest waiting list, and the most suggested by the psychiatrists, the psychologists, the caseworkers, the unit managers. Everybody was, they didn't know what she did. They would go in, 6 weeks later they would come out, and their lives would be transformed. And they're all talking about Shivani this and Shivani that, and freedom thinkers this and freedom thinker that. And in the lunchroom they're talking about it, and in the meetings they're talking about it, and when they had their exit interviews they're talking about it. Everybody's talking. This woman transformed the whole prison. It was so hard on her when COVID hit because they had to shut the whole thing down. It's still shut down. It's been so hard on her, but man, she is brilliant. And the reason I'm mentioning this is people always say, oh, it's soft. This kind of parenting is soft. But it worked in a prison. Okay, please don't tell me it's soft. So with your kids, it's going to have a profound effect. So anyway, I want to shift to a different story, and then I'm gonna, I could just talk on and on, right? But I'm gonna tell you a story about, I went to see the Barbie movie with my kid and her girlfriend and my niece, who's 13 and just the light of my life. I held her in my arms when she was just 12 hours old. Sometimes I tell the story 5 hours and sometimes 12 hours. I can't remember. I should ask her mom. But I've always been like an empowering force in her life. So we have this great relationship. And we went to see the Barbie movie together. And my wife and I got there early, and I was going up the escalator, and right behind us, it's like maybe 3 floors, so it's a long escalator. And there's a kid with his mom, but right behind me. And he was like maybe 8 or so. And he was kind of like this a little bit and hunched over, and he would look a little bit like withdrawn. And his mom was like, she was like apologizing for him, and he kept saying, "We're going to be late." And then I kind of said, "Oh, you're going to be late." I turned to him and immediately I could feel something in him, right? And I said, "Oh, you're going to be late." And he looked at me and said, "Yeah, I don't like to be late." And his mother goes, "Oh, he's just got a thing. I'm sorry. It's just his thing." I'm not actually going to talk about the Barbie movie. I loved it though. But I'm talking about this escalator ride. So this kid, he says that, and then his mother criticizes him for it. Says, "Oh, it's not necessary. Oh, he shouldn't worry about that kind of thing." And she's kind of telling me, kind of telling him. And then she says, and then he says, "Oh yeah, because I might miss some of the movie, and we don't want to miss the coming attractions." And every time he would say one of those things and his mother would criticize, I would say, "You know what? He really cares about being on time. That's really important to him. I really respect that." And then she said the other one about missing the movie. I said, "Yeah, because he wants the full experience, and he knows that if he gets the full experience, that'll be the maximum joy for him. And what a wonderful thing to focus on." And I kept on the escalator ride, maybe 4 or 5 times. I turned around those complaints for him, And but I was doing it. I wasn't shaming the mom, because I know that's just what parents do. I even wrote an article about it in 2015 saying, "Don't complain about your kids," because it's just so common. It's just so common. But so I wasn't shaming her at all. And she actually felt like, "Oh, this is nice of him to say," it was that kind of vibe. But I've cultivated that kind of vibe because I speak out in public in defense of kids all the time. Anyway, so this kid was like this, right? And hunched over and started to straighten up as I was doing it and started to smile. And he just, in one escalator ride, his whole posture changed. And at the end, he was kind of looking at me like, "Oh, all those things are true about me. That's right. That is kind of what I'm thinking, And then at the end, I held out my fist for a fist bump. And he gave me a fist bump and the smile on his face. And I said, "Peace out, little brother." And my wife and I walked off, and that's it, But like, it was like you could see he became a different person in one escalator ride with this unconditional regard, positive regard that I was offering him. Didn't matter what he said, didn't matter what it was. I turned it around to something that I loved and admired. It's not conditional, right? It's not like I'm loving apparently the good stuff, and I'm not loving or ignoring the bad stuff so that they'll go towards more of the good. No, it's not that. It's whatever comes, I find a way to embrace it and love it, so that my kid feels unconditionally accepted by me. And not only accepted, I want my kid to feel like I celebrate them no matter where they're at, no matter what. Yeah, it was an empowering validation. Absolutely. Thank you, Stephanie. It was a beautiful feeling. That was what, last weekend, Thursday, I think. And I'm still thinking about that kid. It was like, just, what it is how quickly it happens when you can tap into that energy. And you have to find it inside yourself. That's the hard part. It's not an intellectual thing. The energy of being able to, I call it iceberg consciousness, right? Being able to see beneath the surface of the behavior of a kid like this and complaining, and you think, "Oh, he's complaining," but no, there's a beauty in there. Can we find that beauty? The kid saw his own beauty, straightened up, smiled, fist bumped me by the end of one freaking escalator ride. Imagine if he got that from his parents all throughout his life about whatever. Imagine how you would feel like that. It's incredible. It's not, and people tell me, "Oh, Vivek, you're going to create self-centered narcissists." No, no. You know, those are people who are compensating for some kind of lack. And I'm not talking about psychological conditions. I'm talking about more the common use of the word of someone who's just self-centered. I don't want to speak about the psychological condition at all because that's not my area. But just the way people complain at me about this. But the fact is that if somebody is deeply connected and rooted in themselves, they don't need to seek it by controlling other people, to seek control by controlling other people, because the control is already inside. And then people say you're not prepared for the real world and not prepared for a job. But let me tell you, every single job my kid gets, she so quickly becomes the favorite employee of the employees and the management, both, because she's not operating from punishment and reward. She's not operating from trying to get anything or trying to avoid consequences. That's not even in her mind. She's operating from dealing with the humans that she works with, humans. She sees them as humans, you know, and that makes, I mean, she also has a work ethic, but she has a work ethic because she cares about the people she works with. She doesn't want to make them have to work harder because she's slacking off. She wants to care about their experience. Not because she'll feel bad if she doesn't, because she knows if she comes to us and says, I slacked off all day, we'd be like, right on. And everybody else had to work harder because we'd be like, harder because of it. I said, right on. You took your space. Doesn't matter what it is, I always write on, right? It's always, she's finding her truth. But it didn't happen the way everybody predicted. She wouldn't be able to handle a job. She wouldn't be able to handle no. Of course she can handle no. It doesn't bother her because she got told yes so much. She's got so much yes inside of her. When she gets told no, she goes, oh, okay, yeah, I can understand why. What about this? And then that's it. She doesn't. She's like, oh. I mean, sometimes, you know, when she doesn't get a job or something, it's emotional for her. That's different, right? We all have grief. It's not like she doesn't experience grief. She's human, very human. You know, which is so, and our relationship is so beautiful. And the reason that I mentioned this, the reason I mentioned the kid on the escalator, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go back and watch the whole video, even though it's a bit long. I was only going to do 5 minutes, but when I go live and I'm telling stories, I just really want to share the full arc of my thought. So the reason I'm sharing this is, if you're starting out or you know, partway through your parenting journey, whether it's been conscious parenting the whole time or you've been working on shifting to do more conscious parenting or whatever it is, one thing you want to keep an eye on is the long-term relationship, right? I always used to say when my kid was really young and I would be thinking about what decision to make about something, I would always think, will this decision make her want to hang out with me when she's 18? When she's 18 and I tell her the story, will she be like, oh, I'm glad you did that. That was wonderful. That must have felt so good to my little self. That must have felt so good. That's what I want her reaction to be. And when I didn't, I apologize, right? But when my choice comes up, when it's choice, because the other isn't really choice, it happens, right? But when it's my choice, and this is what I want to encourage you, when it's your choice, choose relationship first. Choose the relationship you have of trust first, of non-hierarchical power, of violence holding power over, and it is a violent thing to hold power over somebody. And as much as you can, choose it. I know it's hard, but try and choose it, right? Because then what happens is year after year after year of choosing it, every day you wake up and you choose it again, it's consciously choosing it. Every day you wake up and you choose it again. After a couple of decades, it builds up some fantastic layers of this deep trust you have with your kid, and then you have this beautiful relationship with your adult kids. You know, it's wonderful. You know, and like I said, my kid has her own apartment, and she's living with her partner, and she's got a full-time job, and she's living her life. And I see her maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, but every day, almost every day, we text each other, and she calls it separately together. So we'll always be together, separately together. That's her saying. When she moved out, that was her saying. And and I want that for you. I want your relationship to be something that's so beautiful and deep and profound, even years to come. And that when your kid looks back, they think, wow, my parent worked so hard not to control me and to treat me with respect, and just overflowing gratitude comes from that, naturally. And honestly, almost every adult child of gentle parented parents, I don't know if I said that right, it tells me about that sense of gratitude, especially when they compare to traditional families. And it's not a gratitude that's forced by making someone say thank you. It's not that. It's like oozes from their cells. And even that kid on the elevator, one escalator ride, and I saw his whole being changed. And I know you can do that too. Part of it is giving that kind of love to yourself. Imagine yourself on the escalator. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, escalator, you have to go back and listen to the story I told. You don't have to, but I suggest going back and listen to the story. But I had this really positive interaction with this 8-year-old who was really upset. And then by the time we got to the top of the escalator, he was beaming with joy because I filled him with so much empowerment. And you can do that to yourself, and you can do that to your kid. No, it's not toxic positivity, but it's but that's a whole different video, and I'm not going to get into it now. But choose relationship first, basically, because what happens is over many years you end up with this, like I said, the sublime beauty of non-coercion. So that's it, everybody. I went live on Instagram and Facebook at the same time on 2 different devices, tried an experiment. I hope it worked out. Thanks to everybody who stayed and listened. If you didn't hear the whole thing, please go back to the beginning, listen to the whole thing. I invite you to check out my free course, Guiding Without Controlling, which is available at meaningfulideas.com. And also please follow me on all the spaces, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. And that's it, everybody. Oh, and spaces too. Threads too. And that's it. Peace out, everybody. How do I stop these? Do I want to end video? Yes. Will it let me save it? I don't want to discard the media. I want to save it. Okay, and I'm going to end over here on Facebook. This is a terrible end.